Welcome everybody, and thank you for coming here today. Today's topic, top 10 reasons why 510K submissions are delayed for cybersecurity. My name is Christopher Gates. I have been a medical device developer for over 50 years. And during the last 20 years, my time has mostly been devoted to medical device cybersecurity. Not just the implementation of it, but also working with it with regulatory bodies and standard bodies and creating standards that are workable for us in our industry. My goal is always to educate medical device engineers in how to perform secure operations and implement security in your product. Along the way, I co-wrote a book on medical device cybersecurity. It's the top book, selling book. It's now in its second edition. In a few months, it'll be in a third edition as well. And it's now used in multiple training implementations at brick and mortar schools. So how did we get here? Well, over the last 10 years or so, starting in about 2013, the draft pre-market cybersecurity came out by the FDA. It was 7 pages in length and basically said you need to make your medical devices secure, and we like puppies and unicorns are cute, and no concrete examples of what that actually meant or how to prove it to the FDA. Huge disservice to our industry as developers because nobody knew what to do. So when you're confused and don't know what do? You ignore it. And that's what the vast of the majority did in the industry. Every couple of years, the FDA came out with another guidance like the post-market responsibility for cybersecurity in 2016. Then they kept updating it year over year with new draft guidances until finally in September of 2023, they finalized a pre-market cybersecurity guidance that is 57 pages in length. So bit of a growth, little scope increase over the 10 years. And as a result of it now, the FDA has its own division, the DMDC, that consists of nothing but cybersecurity experts inside the FDA. And as of about 3 weeks ago, they are now the ones reviewing every 510K submission. The reviewer hands off the cybersecurity portion to the DMDC experts who are doing this. So as a result of the layoffs, and the reviewers weren't doing that great of a job anyway. So it works for everybody. Not only is this an FDA thing, but the rest of the world got on board as well too, from the European Union to Health Canada to Australia. You name it, everybody's got cybersecurity requirements, and don't bother to ask, none of them are harmonized. That would be way too easy, right? So the Bibles for this, for the FDA currently, are the September 23rd, 2023 pre-market cybersecurity and post-market cybersecurity from 2016. All of your submissions from October of 2023 now have to go through an electronic submissions portal called eStar. eStar mandates those 12 artifacts are included for cybersecurity. If as you're filling out eStar, you say, I have software in my product, that is the only qualifier needed to turn on the cybersecurity section, and that means you need all of those. This does not scale with the safety risk of your device. A software-enabled tongue depressor is just as high a level of cybersecurity risk as is a ventilator or a pole mount infusion pump or a SAMD, a software as a medical device. So all of those are things you need to have on your radar. None of them optional. None of them scale downwards. They only scale upwards, by the way. So here back in December of last year at the Health ISAC fall summit meetings that they have, the FDA, in one of their last times being able to speak publicly, came out and listed all of the reasons, top reasons, that they were rejecting and putting on hold letters on pre-market submissions. And there was about 24 issues or so that was presented by Monroe. Monroe, by the way, has since left the FDA, just to give you an idea of what's going on there. If you expect your submission to go through quickly, think again, you're going to look at months of delay on any of these submissions, not just for cybersecurity. So he gave all these, and then I went ahead and took this list, and over the 20 years I've been doing this and hundreds of pre-market submissions I've been involved with for cybersecurity, arranged them in a top 10 list of what he was presenting there. So number 10, attempting to remove connectivity to avoid being classed as a cyber device. The law that gave the FDA the power to enforce cybersecurity that was passed by Congress also gave the FDA the authority to define and enforce it. So in the law, Section 524B of the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, they talk about certain requirements that you have to do. So there's about 5 of them that are in there. Very lightweight. What the FDA has done is not only taken those, but amplified it. So at this point in time, in that law, 524B, they say you're a cyber device if you meet these three conditions, one of which is you have software and connectivity and have vulnerabilities. That no longer matters to you as a manufacturer. You can ignore what a cyber device means because you have to get FDA approval. All that matters is what the FDA is mandating. So effectively, cyber device means nothing, all right? But to escape from being that, and early on, I was advising this, especially of startups, don't put every communications you've ever thought of in your device. I was seeing things like Bluetooth Low Energy, Wi-Fi, LoRa, cellular, all in one device. And I'm like, you've got $200,000 in radio coexistence testing. Forget cybersecurity. It's a nightmare. Get a standalone product in, get some cash flow, then turn on that something, your Wi-Fi or your Ethernet or your Bluetooth or whatever it is you're working with. So I advised a lot of companies to do exactly what the FDA is now looking for, which is, no, you can't do that now. If you have software, we're going to go through and look for you there as you go through it, okay? Do I necessarily agree with that? No, I don't, but you know, that's the way the law goes. Overall lack of documentation clarity. This is a real big problem because I review a lot of submission packages. You see things like this. This is actually, I've changed the name so nobody is identified in this, but this is actually a real table that came out of a real submission. One document, supposed to be a risk management document, and they had nothing but pointers off to other documents that humorously weren't included in the submission, by the way. So it wasn't even like it's going to be massively inconvenient. No, it was pure on impossible to tell what you're saying. You've got a table. Great, right? Don't do this. Make this stuff as clean and easy to read for the reviewer and the cybersecurity experts as possible. Put table of contents at the beginning of each of those 12 artifacts. Make it easy for them. Follow their prescription. Literally, that guidance document from September 2023 has an Appendix 1 in it that tells you exactly what you need to do. They're very prescriptive, unlike nothing else in a pre-market submission. They don't do this for biocompatibility or anything else, but here with cybersecurity, these are the things you have to do. If you do them, you're going to be okay, all right? Follow this, make it clear, walk through there. Don't make it obscure. That's something they're going to have to screw with, because trust me, they're going to get upset with you, and that's going to mean they're not going to do well by your submission. Number 8, manufacturer doesn't provide an assessment of findings and or describe changes made as a result of third-party penetration testing. They not only want to see a summary, they want to see what that third party that you had doing your pen testing, what they actually said. And remember, now in the September 2023 guidance, they now talk about that you have to prove technical expertise to perform this, and you have to be independent. So if you think you're going to get that intern that wrote your Python code that's running on that Atmel, all right, think again. You can't do that now. You have to show that they have qualifications to do that. That can be challenging. Number 7, absent or inadequate vulnerability testing, malformed and unexpected inputs. There are 2 types of random negative forms of testing that you should be doing on your medical device. I'm including SAMD as well as physical medical devices, SIMD as well. Both of these, you should have fuzz testing of the user interface, that's malformed inputs. What can the user do on their interface? How can they implement things or put you in modes that you shouldn't have, as well as any digital communications that you have going into it. So if you've got a device and you've got Bluetooth going into it, you need to fuzz test. That's random data being thrown over that in a structured way to stress test that Bluetooth interface. Both of those need to happen. Use of a vulnerability scanner such as Nessus for penetration testing. Nessus is a fine tool. There's nothing wrong with Nessus. It's just not sufficient for penetration testing. It is a tool a penetration tester would use as part of a much larger engagement, but saying, I ran this one tool, check the box, I'm done, move along. Nope, not possible. It's a good starting point. It's actually one of the first things you would do during your research phase of the device as a pen tester, and which, for those who aren't aware, penetration testing is hacker for hire. That's where you folks would pay somebody like myself, and I would go and attack your device and then come back and tell you all the ways I attacked it. That not only tells you about your device, but it tells you something bad about your process, because you should never get to that point. In fact, it's the worst about your process. Number 5, issues with traceability. Security risk control mitigations are not adequately traced to security requirements and testing reports. There is a lot of traceability going on now in these documents. If you're using Word and Excel to try to do this, neither of those platforms are going to do this well. Is it impossible to do manual tracing? No. 30 years ago, I literally, on one of my development teams, had a guy that's all he did, was manually keep up traceability. You don't want to do that today. You want to have one of the many tools that can enable this for you, all right? Requirements managers, application lifecycle managers, project lifecycle managers. The company I work for has MedTech OS, which is a good one as well too. It does all sorts of traceability and allows you to show this traceability as you go through it. Very big deal. Number 4, failure to implement adequate cybersecurity controls. As we get closer to number 1, these get more and more realistic and more egregious. This is somebody who doesn't understand cybersecurity, and they said, well, I was looking for the integrity of this data stream that's coming across, so I used a checksum, or I used a cyclic redundancy check, a CRC. Well, that's fine, it's just not cryptographic in nature. Does not meet what you need to do. So you need to understand what are the tools, the cryptographic primitives you use to mitigate certain issues. And that's what they see a lot of here. Appendix 1 in the 2023 guidance walks you through a whole lot of these. Right? If you buy my book, I'll walk you through even more of them, okay? Or you engage with us. There's all sorts of tools you can use for this, but understand they're probably not what your really good software engineer has been trained to do, because software engineers were never trained in cybersecurity. It's not that they're bad people. I once upon a time was a software engineer for many decades, right? It's that we never were trained in this. And unless you happen to be somebody like me who's, before I was a software engineer, I was a hacker, you don't understand how these things work. So, lack of training, don't implement the right controls. Number 3, cybersecurity risk assessment evaluates security risk using probability. And then also, the FDA coupled this together. When security risks are transferred into this safety risk assessment process, unrealistic probability estimates are used for safety risks. So, a couple of things. We have cybersecurity risk. That's a separate process from safety risk. Any of you who've done medical device development for years think of risk mitigation and risk management as safety risk management. Same thing, based on probability of occurrence, likelihood, probability of occurrence, probability of harm, P1, P2. Sound familiar to you guys? We still do this, but we also now have cybersecurity risk management. Different tools. We only look at severity and exploitability. We do not use likelihood. The FDA set up a trap in eStar. It actually asks you, did you use likelihood to score your vulnerabilities? For God's sakes, don't say yes. Okay, that's just an easy way for them to reject it right out of hand. All right? So this is the kind of thing, you cannot use it for this. You can look in the safety side of risk management with using probability of occurrence and likelihood, but not in the security side of it. And both paths through, both processes, can implement mitigating controls in place. And lastly, the unrealistic probabilities estimates. Unfortunately, this has resulted in warning letters. Okay, you can Google it and find out who. I'm not going to throw the manufacturer under the bus, but intentionally misestimating those so as you don't have to do anything. Don't do that. You get caught with that, you're going to be tied up for years. This particular company lost millions in the process. Number 2, use of inappropriate security control risk mitigations or assumptions. It's used in a hospital, that's a secure network, or it's only used in the cath lab. I don't need to do user authentication. I love this man, he keeps shaking his head, you know, okay? This is wrong, wrong, wrong. The environment, if anything, has to be assumed to be malicious. You can't go through and say, no, because I feel like it should be secure, it is. It is not secure, okay? The only way to implement security mitigations are principally cryptography and to a lesser extent physics, okay? I'm doing an induction over this near field and I can't get a coil that's less than 30 feet in diameter to be able to talk to this. It's going to be pretty obvious. Somebody walks up with a field that way, right? Or it takes too long to send this large packet across. Somebody can't easily attack it in the time period in which they could attack it. Physics can play a factor in that. All right. Even completely standalone devices need to implement cybersecurity mitigations. It just gets easier because there's not as much to do. Number one. This is the one I see pretty much every submission. Software bill of materials. I was part of the team that started defining this 9 years ago with Department of Commerce, NTIA, and the great Alan Friedman. The software bill of materials is in two formats. It's in a machine-readable JSON format, and there's structures for it. There's one called Cyclone DX and another one called SPDX. Use Cyclone DX, by the way, just saying. Okay, it's easier, and has a lot more capabilities. The human-readable one goes into your instructions for use. So you may have, let's say you wrote your SAMD in JavaScript, and JavaScript uses a lot of components. You may have 5,000 components, and each one of those components have transitive dependencies upon it. Log4j, okay, the famous Log4j, has 294 sub-dependencies on it. In a machine-readable one, you need to show all of those. In a human-readable one, you would just say Log4j, and the version and the minimum system elements that go in it. So as you go through this, an Excel spreadsheet is not a machine-readable software bill of materials. It is not. You wouldn't believe the percentage of this I see, that people do it this way. There are tools out there for authoring them, both proprietary and open source. If you go to the Cyclone DX site, they have a store there that points you to both types, and you can go out and get them. If you like to screw around with open source Python code and get it to work, great, fantastic. Or you can go out to one of the many vendors that do that are also listed there. Use one of these tools. And then you can have even quality tools that I'm shown here that will go through and say, how good of a job did it do? Because maybe the SBOM didn't really complete it out. So there are tools available to even look at the quality of it, and then you can go back and use other tools like Parlay and some commercial tools that for here I just referenced open source tools, not the commercial ones, but you can use those to help you fill in all the fields that have to be supported. This is defined by the US government. It's the software bill of materials minimum system elements that have to be inside of an SBOM. It's not just used in our industry, by the way, but 15 other industries as well, like oil and gas, automotive, power generation. All of these use this. The military's gotten off into it in a big way as well, too. So software bill of materials are a huge topic. All right, make certain you do a good job of it. Look for that JSON file, not an Excel spreadsheet. Takeaways from here. Pretty much what I've been saying along all this. They're being very prescriptive with cybersecurity documentation. Take advantage of that. Treat it like the checklist it is. All right? You'll do a much better job of it. Use the artifacts as defined by the E-Star submission system. Have your submission easy to read and easy to find information. Don't make a lot of off-document references, especially off-document to documents that aren't included in the submission. Removing communication mediums does not remove the need for security, unfortunately. There was a time when it did, but not now. Trace throughout your documentation, requirements to implementations to tests, including third-party penetration tests. So when you engage with a third party, make certain their report is traceable. So, has hierarchical arrangements, so you can call them out. All right. Fuzz testing and malformed inputs testing, lots of tools, proprietary and open source to perform that. Use Appendix 1 and pre-market cybersecurity guidance as a checklist. Never use probability or likelihood. Severity and exploitability for vulnerabilities, that's it. If it's not cryptographic in nature, then most likely it isn't an effective security mitigation. Right? Just get over it, you can't argue it. And then use the NTIA minimum system elements for software bill of materials as a guide for contents in your Cyclone DX SBOM. That's the company I work for. I've been there now 6 weeks at this company, so I'm new. Even though I'm 100% remote, I've taken this long to find where the bathrooms are. So feel free to contact us. Anybody who's interested, we're right over here in the booth, right over here by the tables, by where the food is over there, so feel free to drop by. I'm also raffling off the book that I mentioned before there, so leave your business card and somebody gets to win a $144 book here today. So who else is giving you 150 bucks for being here today, right? So come by and drop off, have a talk with me, ask me any questions you need. Thank you everybody for being here.